Thanks, Nikki. This is Art Viewing Adventures, and we are joined by Rob Tat, my good friend, fellow museum guide, also who you have a photography gallery, or you've had one in the past, Rob.
Right, right. Not anymore, but yes, yeah, yeah.
And you're just a huge, you're just a great resource for photography. So you've been on this program many times, but today we're going to be talking about exhibition at SFMOMA about the San Francisco Art Institute called People Make This Place. And Rob and I went several times to this and really want to talk about the important role the Art Institute has played in San Francisco culture. So, Rob, why don't you go ahead and kick us off? Tell us about SFAI.
All right, be happy to do that. So, despite many efforts to save it, on July 15th, 2022, the San Francisco Art Institute closed its doors at the Russian Hill campus after 151 years of continuous operation. Now, fortunately, their rich and vast archives were saved, and now they form the basis for a wonderful retrospective exhibition at San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. Now, the exhibition explores the continued influence of SFAI in the San Francisco arts community. And it also considers SFMOMA's collection through the lens of SFAI's history. There are many graduates and many of the school and many faculty whose works are represented in the SFMOMA permanent collection. So the thrust of the exhibition of the retrospective is the school's role as a driving cultural force in the Bay Area. Slide. So this the title of the exhibition, "People Make This Place," comes from this quote. And it was from an alumnus and an artist named Dewey Crumpler. And we'll just read it with you. "This small place in Northern California has echoed waves of creativity that have moved throughout the world. So the name may change, the building may take on different shapes, but the permanency is in your mind, it's in your body, it's in what you will produce." And that really pretty much sums up the significance of SFAI to the art world, in the broader art world in general. A slide. A little bit of history as we start. In 1893, the railroad magnate Mark Hopkins donated his mansion to the University of California to be used by what was then called the San Francisco Art Association for instruction in and illustration of the fine arts, music, and literature. So the mansion that you see here, the Mark Hopkins Mansion, was on the site of what is currently the Mark Hopkins Hotel on Nob Hill in San Francisco. Slide. In 1926, the San Francisco Institute of Art, as it was then called, later, of course, known as the Art Institute, opened its campus on Chestnut Street in Russian Hill. Slide. And in 1969, the so-called brutalist architecture edition was added with its large rooftop common area and spectacular views of San Francisco from its Russian Hill location. You get a sense of that in these pictures. Slide. Now, the SFMOMA exhibition has many wonderful historic photographs of the building and its activities, as well as all kinds of memorabilia and ephemera. Here you see a wall-size photographic of the central courtyard, which was always a hub of activity for the students. Slide. Slide. Here we go. Good. And two photographs of the library as it looked a few years after the building opened in 1928, and a more recent photo from 2018. Slide. And here is the famous Diego Rivera mural, which is in the common room, which he painted in 1931. And the good news is that even though SFAI has closed, fortunately, the Rivera mural will live on, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later on in our presentation. Slide. So, as I mentioned, the exhibition features works from the SFMOMA collection by SFAI faculty and students, but it also includes much wonderful memorabilia from the archives. And an example here, you see this is wall covered with all kinds of things. So let's take a look at a few of the the particularly notable pieces that Rodney and I thought were particularly of interest. Slide. Rodney?
Yeah, so yeah, there's lots of great photos from the SFMOMA collection. These are like this one here is a Perkle Jones, I believe. There's a lot of photographs of the Black Panthers. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. We've got these vitrines with different things, pamphlets, such stuff like that. So yeah, this is a Perkle Jones photograph from the Free Huey demonstration at Alameda County Courthouse. Real interesting for me because that, by the way, that date's wrong. It should say 1968, I think.
Yeah.
Perkle Jones and his wife were given access to the Panthers. His wife was Ruth Marion Baruch, and she had approached the Panthers to do photography, and they liked working with both of them. This is a pretty notable picture because it really shows you how the Black Panthers presented themselves with these kind of very mod-looking uniforms. Also, kind of cool picture of the courthouse, which is a nice Art Deco building in the background.
So Perkle Jones, I think, was a student at that time when he made this, but I think later on was also on the faculty. And he was a well-known San Francisco photographer.
Yeah. And we have a question. Why does it say 1938? It's because I think I screwed that up. Somebody screwed that up because it definitely was 1938.
Yeah,
it would have been
38.
like an amazing kind of very prophetic photograph if it had been back then.
Yes.
And then more stuff from that era. A poster, Freedom for Angela Davis, which was done by the International Union of Students. I presume some members of the Art Institute must have been in that group. And then we've got these very scary masks of a couple of pretty scary guys from back in those days. Anybody recognize them?
Nixon
and more of a California guy, Ronald Reagan, who comes up a lot on my new Berkeley in the 60s tour. He was the great historic enemy of the hippies and the free speech movement students at UC Berkeley.
He was an equal opportunity hater. He hated
There you go. Yeah.
He hated students. He hated everybody equally.
I'm not among his great admirers, but
he didn't discriminate on his discrimination.
You'll hear a lot more about him.
Okay.
So here's Perkle Jones, I guess, in his teaching days with Zig Jackson, and they made this pretty cool postcard. So it's kind of, you could call this mixed media. They start with a photograph and then kind of drew on it. And this is in that memorabilia section. And then this got some really cool looking posters. I love this one that mentions the old spaghetti factory, which was a great hangout. And I've talked to people who were students at SFAI who worked at the old spaghetti factory, including Dave Getz, the former, the current and past drummer for Big Brother and the Holding Company. And then we've got some of these, the Six Gallery, one of the great galleries on Fillmore Avenue, and other just cool looking events being advertised here.
Yeah, I remember, growing up in San Francisco in the '60s. The old spaghetti factory was quite the place. It was one of the centers of the whole North Beach scene in those days. So it was really a kind of a very important place.
I am sorry I missed out on all that, Rob. Definitely a
Well, you're
loss.
you're recreating it now with your tour, so that's
Yes.
good.
Well, I have to get now. I mean, this is like kind of pre the Haight Ashbury. There are some good North Beach tours though, so maybe that'll cover that.
Yeah. What's this little Joan Brown card? Oh,
Yeah,
that's
let's
the
blow that up a
gallery.
little bit. I think it's a oh, hold on. So a painting exhibition at
Was
the
that the
Batman
60s?
Gallery.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
ever get to that one, Rob?
No, no. I really wasn't, that into art in those days, but a little bit, but not going to galleries. But we'll see in another slide. Maybe it's the next slide about the some of the other galleries. No,
No,
it's
this is about one of these sessions, the 1949 summer session, and some of the classes that are being given. But look at who the guest instructors are. So what do you think of
yeah.
that, Rob?
I love this one. Wouldn't you love to be a fly on the wall in that class to listen to Rothko and Weston?
It-
Um,
this
Marvelous.
one's the Rothko class. Views of painting today. What would he have said? Well, I wish I knew. And I
Yeah,
think we've got a
wonderful.
Weston one in here too.
And we'll talk more about photography in a little bit.
Life sketch by Richard Diebenkorn, Clay Spawn teaching classes, Clifford Still. So these are just really amazing, legendary names of the art world. Teaching and David Park teaching a bunch of classes, Elmer Bischoff. So and those are the regular instructors.
Yeah, it's a who's who of Bay Area artists. I mean, they just had the most marvelous faculty, and many of whom were graduates.
Yeah, and I have to say I love these little figures in this um, class
Yeah,
curriculum.
if it wasn't for the date, I would think this is '60s. It looks very '60s, the design, but look, it's 1949, which is
I
interesting.
It kind of gives me. I feel like it gives you a little sense of the beats.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
Which
even then, it's
again,
early even for the beats. I think.
exactly. Yeah, they come along in maybe the mid '50s. Yeah, here are these other galleries. They have several posters remembering these early galleries. They were small spaces. They were storefronts. Several of them on Fillmore, Upper Fillmore, Lower Fillmore, in the Marina District, and quite legendary galleries. The sixth gallery, the one on the little card on the left. I think that's the sixth gallery, right? Yeah, sixth
On the
gallery. Yeah,
left.
right
Yeah.
on Lower Fillmore.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like we'll have these 1960s posters of the hippie era that'll be quite different, but still these are kind of maybe trending in that direction. Kind of hip, especially this one, something that isn't just for regular mainstream culture.
yeah. And this is one that I particularly liked. It's Mark Rothko's class book. I guess that's where they took roll or whatever they had the names of the students. Yeah,
And those are Mark Rothko doodles.
there's little doodles on there, right? Exactly. So great stuff. I mean, the memorabilia and the exhibition is just really fun. And this is a good one. Uh, the board chair, Sissy Swig being a huge supporter of the arts community, and the school director, Fred Martin, handing out diplomas at commencement in 1975. And in those days, apparently, you did not need to wear a cap and gown, or for that matter, anything, to attend the graduation ceremony. So here's a naked guy getting his diploma.
Maybe trained to be a
Nikki
model or
says, "Where's
something.
his cap and gown?" Yeah, well,
Where is his cap and gown? Well, yep. And then pictures of from some of the musical. There's a bunch of punk groups that were affiliated with the Art Institute in the 80s going into the 90s. So some of the posters for that. We'll talk a little more about that later on.
yeah.
Well, let's get into photography, Rob. That's always your
Oh,
thing.
okay.
Tell us
Yeah, we're
about
going to
that.
talk about photography first, and then we'll come back to Rodney and talk about some of the other works in the exhibit. But the photography was a program at SFAI was of particular note because when it was founded by Ansel Adams in 1945 after the war, it was the first program in the United States to teach photography as a fine art as opposed to a commercial craft. And this wall-size mural that you see, which introduces the photography section of the exhibit, you see a group of the students, photography students, working in a typical San Francisco location, cul-de-sac or little end of a street someplace. And it's particularly interesting to notice, I think, that while all of these students are in the same place, each of them is photographing something different. Each of them finds something else, something separate that interests them. Slide.
Yeah, and I just want to, if anyone knows this location in San Francisco, I'd love to know where it is because it's
Yeah,
got
we were trying to figure it out. I
stairway
we
going
assume
into
it's
a
in
cul-de-sac.
North Beach, somewhere near the school, probably. Uh, the faculty included Ansel Adams, as we said, and many other iconic Bay Area photographers, such as Dorothea Lange, Minor White, Imogene Cunningham, etc. And these photographers and others were also the founding artists of SFMOMA's photography collection. So in the 1930s, when SFMOMA was established, it was called the San Francisco Museum of Art, and at that time there were very few museums were collecting photography, but they started collecting photography, and as a result, they today have a very rich collection of vintage photographs. So let's take a look at some of the faculty works that are included in the exhibition. Slide. This piece by Dorothea Lange, which I've always loved. Of course, we know Dorothea Lange as an FSA, a Depression era photographer, and of course, her famous photograph of the migrant mother. And if you recall that photograph, which I'm sure you've seen many, many times, there's so much expression of emotion in the facial expression of the mother in that photograph, and I think you can see the similar qualities here at work in this photograph. Anybody have any thoughts on this? Does it move
Feel
you
free
as
to
much as it
unmute
moves
if you
me?
want to.
What's that?
Feel free. I'm telling folks if you want to unmute and share
Yeah.
thoughts or put them in chat. That's, do we like this photograph? Do we think it's a cool, there's a lot of mystery, I think, for me.
Yeah.
Who is like, seems like it's a hearse, maybe.
Yeah,
It says,
how I read it.
Cortez,
Yeah.
so we know that, but
Yeah.
you see
Well,
this
anyway,
person.
I always felt this photograph is so full of emotion. Sarah says it is not very flattering. Well, that's true. Well, okay, let's move on.
Speaking of not very flattering,
Yeah, there you go. This is Lisette Modell's photograph, another faculty member, and a wonderful character study, very much the type of photograph that she is known for. Lisette Modell was a member of the Photo League in New York City, which was a group of left-leaning concerned photographers who were doing a lot of documentary and street photography. And Here's a comment from a friend of Rodney's and mine, sent us the other day about Lisette. And she says, capturing people unawares, pushing the camera uncomfortably close, or aggressively cropping her prints to emphasize every grimace, flaw, or questionable wardrobe decision. Modell sought to show humans with their defenses down, a lesson she passed on to her students, including Larry Fink and Deanne Arbus, who was also her student. And it's quite interesting to note that even though Lisette Modell did not live in the Bay Area, she frequently came out to San Francisco to teach as a visiting professor at the SFAI.
Yes,
Slide.
and
Yep.
Nikki notes a resemblance to Cloris Leachman.
Yes, yeah. Edward Weston, another one of the faculty, famous photographers who were teaching there, and this is the dunes photograph that they have in the exhibit from him. And interesting to note that when Edward Weston made a photograph like this one, he was mostly concerned with form and abstract qualities of the scene, of the subject, or what he liked, the way he liked to put it, he called it the thing itself, the thing itself. So let me throw this out to the group. When you look at this photograph, you're not just seeing dunes. Weston gives you so much more to see. So I'm wondering, what do you see here beyond the subject?
And feel free to unmute or throw ideas in the chat. I'll go first and just say, so many different colors in this. We've got all these, we've got this like black line on a diagonal, and in another black line up above. The shapes are amazing. Just kind of, you wonder, like, what was it like to be in this place at the time you took this photograph? What's the temperature?
Yeah, that's an interesting comment, guy. I always felt that there was more color in a black and white photograph than there is in a color photograph, because your mind can bring the colors in and make them very vivid. And I think that's what you're talking about.
Ron says tonality, variety of textures, lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like what a view of nature, right?
Yeah. All very carefully seen. Any other comments in chat there? Anything, Rodney?
Nope. Why don't we move on?
All right, we'll move on. Okay, very good. So these are students studying with Edward Weston, and he's often referred to among photographers and curators and collectors as the master, and he really was. You see him here in two photographs that were of students at his Wildcat Hill home, which is in the Carmel Highlands, and that is Weston at the easel in the photograph on the left. Slide. Here's a very fun photograph in the exhibition. Imogen Cunningham and Ruth Azawa. They were great friends in life, in real life, and Cunningham, of course, photographed a wide range of subjects during her career, but she was particularly known for her portraits and her floral works. And Ruth Azawa was known for her exploration of materials and forms in a variety of mediums. And those of you in the Bay Area may have seen the recent exhibition, retrospective at SFMOMA on Ruth Azawa's work. But here we see a figurative sculpture by Azawa, which has Cunningham's photographs adorning the miniskirt. If you look close, those are photographs. The sculpture was made by Ruth Azawa for an SFAI photography exhibition that was held in 1969. Slide.
Yeah, I want to just add that I love the way both these artists are portraying themselves.
Yeah.
Very unconventional, I think, both of them. And Imogen Cunningham, I love this dress that she has with her peace sign, and then Ruth Asawa in this great artist garb. I don't know. We don't really know who the photographer is who took this, right?
No, we don't know.
But I would give them an A. I think it's a good photograph.
Yeah, it is a very good photograph. Yeah. This is Minor White teaching. And he was a rather significant photographer, even though somewhat lesser known. After Ansel Adams left, he ran the photography program at SFAI for a number of years. And later on, he went on to found Aperture Magazine, which was a legendary photography journal. Slide. And during his time at what was then called the California School of Fine Arts, Minor White taught photography as a medium for visual expression. And you see here on the left side an original hand-typed manuscript, which is entitled Space Analysis Recognition. It's on display in the exhibition. And in it, he used his photographs of everyday subjects, such as stones or shadows or even light on a wall, to teach spatial relationships, form, and pattern. And this is the photograph that's in the exhibition of his. Slide. So let's turn to students' works of photography. This is a grid of small 5 by 7 inch prints, black and white prints, all works by students in the first few classes in photography at SFAI. And in the early years, the students and the faculty used to gather at Ansel Adams' home once a month to share their work with each other and to critique it and so on. And then they would trade prints with each other. And so this resulted in vast personal collections among SFAI photography graduates. Slide. And here are a couple of those graduates, Bill Hike and John Rogers. And again, as we go through these, feel free to comment if you have thoughts about any of these pieces. Slide.
I like how we paired these two because it seems like it's similar times of day.
Yes.
Photographed.
Yeah.
And this great line going up the side, that's really, I don't know, draws your attention, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And the shadows on the one on the right are just beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Very crisp.
slide. Alfred Richter, Patricia Harris, a couple of environmental details, I guess you could call them, nature studies. But again, as in Weston's pieces, so much more than the subject is visible here. The abstract qualities, the mood, etc. I think you can see that. Slide.
Is there a culture of West Coast photographers that the Art Institute kind of helps nurture?
Well, I would say so. Yeah, I mean, because certainly many of the graduates stayed in the area and worked here, and I mean, I think here you see the influence of Edward Weston. You compare these to the Dunes photograph that we looked at a couple of slides ago. You really see that sense of showing us more than the subject, the abstraction, the qualities of the gray, etc. Slide. Two more, Muriel Francis Green and John Bertolino. Quite different in terms of subject and style.
Yeah, we were talking when we showed this to the museum guides that you can kind of see these two children on the right side of the photograph, and then these two bottles of milk, like
Yeah.
like they're kind of there's some kind of connection between these different figures.
Interesting balance.
Yeah,
And then the well on the right side and weathered well.
with
Uh,
more diagonals,
yeah, wonderful
shadows.
shadows. Yeah. Notice the way the diagonal, the shadow counters the diagonal of the support there, the of the wood piece of wood they're supporting the upright. Slide. So, with all these photographs, I think it's interesting to view them in light of the school's curriculum of teaching photography as a fine art, as we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. I think you can see that here. Um, so let's throw that out to the group. What qualities do you see in these photographs or any particular one of these that would qualify it as a fine art photograph?
Well, they're not just simply, portraits of a particular subject. There's other things going on. Your eye is drawn to other places. There's all kinds of really interesting geometric things going on. That's what I observe. Other thoughts out there? And I think this like celebration of nature, we
Yeah,
see several of them. Even the one on the upper left, the clouds are very interesting.
yeah. Sarah says what the light and shadow is very important. I can't see the rest of that, but yeah. I mean, you see that they're it's much more than a document, right? The bill hike on the top left there. It's not just it's not just a picture of whatever this building is. He's not documenting the building. He's showing us something artistic. And again, the well, same thing. And of course the nature abstractions. Again, the way the photographer's chosen just what part of that vast scene they want to show us. Uh,
And
what did he
Ron
say
says
there?
the two
Yeah.
top left pictures are flipped backwards. Is that right?
I think it looks like they are actually. Yeah, it looks like they got flipped back. At least the left one anyway. The Bill Hike I think is flipped.
Very observant.
Yeah, I think the Bill Hike got flipped. Yeah, yeah.
Oops.
I don't know how that happened, but it did. Okay.
Ron.
Yeah. Any other comments before we move on? Next slide. Okay. So let's move on. This is something that Rodney and I really thought was great. The two images here, the one by Minor White, who of course was on the faculty, we talked about him, and Charles Wong, who was a student, and they're both photographing the same corner in Chinatown, although several years apart. But if you look close, you'll see the Waverly Place street sign on the top, and then the old street sign there, and you'll see that it is the same wall. You can recognize some of that mural with the dragon, etc. It is indeed the same street corner. So, and kind of interesting the way they see it differently. Each photographer sees it differently. Okay, slide. And this well-known photograph by David Johnson, Fillmore Street, the old Fillmore Street, before it was redeveloped in the 50s, early 60s, and in the back there you see what is the now the Fillmore Auditorium right there, and next to it what used to be a synagogue has been torn down, and I think there's a post office there now. But anyway, you can see how thriving the neighborhood used to be back in the day. And David Johnson was the first African American student in the photography program at SFAI.
Yeah, and in 47, I think it was a very important African American neighborhood with some really great jazz clubs. The Fillmore Auditorium was primarily rhythm and blues and jazz at that time.
Yeah, and adjacent to a Jewish neighborhood. Trying to remember the name of the street, but anyway, there was it was also a Jewish neighborhood. But thriving neighborhood, and kind of sad if you look at it today.
Also needs to be said, it had been a Japanese
Yes.
American neighborhood, and as a result of the internment, many people were displaced, and now Japantown is there now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. There's a wonderful documentary that was done by KQED, which I think you can find online about the Fillmore, the history of it.
Yep.
Slide. Rodney, did you?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we are going to now talk about
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you had something to say. No, I'm still want to
Go
finish
ahead,
this part
Rob.
up. Yeah. I want to digress for just a minute here from showing you pictures from the actual exhibition, to mention that these early years of the photography program at SFAI that we've been talking about, the early faculty, the early students, were considered so significant that there have been 2 books published about them in recent years. The one on the left there, The Moment of Seeing, is particularly all about Minor White's contribution to the program, which was significant. And then the one on the right, The Golden Decade, contains portfolios of a number of early photography students. Slide. In 2017, at the book launch party for The Golden Decade, many of the surviving photographers were present. And here you see a picture of me with Jerry Ratto and his wife, whom I represented in my gallery for many years. So as you can see, it was, and as you can imagine, it was a very wonderful, very nostalgic event to see all of these photographers together again. Slide. So let's turn to some of the more contemporary work in the exhibition. This piece by Linda Connor. Linda Connor was a student at SFAI, but then she also was on faculty for more than 50 years, from 1969 to 2022. And this is an interesting piece because it's a modern photograph that was printed from an historic glass plate negative photographed through a telescope. A slide. Catherine Opie. She was mentored by photographers Larry Sultan and Henry Wessel, well known as photographers and also on the faculty, part-time faculty. And they encouraged her to explore her identity through deeply personal documentary modes of photography. This piece is called Raven, is an example of that, and how the queer and punk communities of San Francisco helped shape her artistic vision. So the type of mentoring that went on at SFAI. Slide. And this very, very fun piece by Mike Mandel, the baseball card collection. Slide. Except that these are not really baseball players. These are all famous photographers. So you see, for example, Ansel Adams there up on the right, down below Laura Gilpin, Ed Ruscha on the left there, and wonderful how he dressed them as baseball players, and interesting sort of in some sense where he what position they are playing. For example, you see Ansel Adams being the catcher. And then on the rear, in the format that you would see on a baseball card, information about the photographer. Slide. And finally, this picture from the 1970s of the Hooker's Ball at the Cow Palace by Michael Yang. So back to Rodney, let's talk about some of the other works of art in the exhibition.
Yeah, because it's true. There's a lot of great photography in this exhibition, but there's also paintings. Although this is kind of combining the two, I would say. It is a painting by Mario Ayala, who is from Los Angeles originally, born in 1991. But I think it's kind of interesting that he's chosen this format. So these are televisions, but they form a pyramid. Any thoughts on, what the significance of the pyramid might be? And it's also interesting to see like what is on each of the televisions. We've got the FBI on top. I find that interesting because I just finished a biography of J. Edgar Hoover. Good biography of him.
And
And
Amazon.
yeah, Amazon, it's like, like the modern world, but also the more traditional world being depicted. He is someone who's very interested in Latino culture and was part of an exhibition at SFMOMA about within the last year about the lowrider culture. So worth checking out. Jess is a really important artist in San Francisco history. This is a collage made up of, it's got clowns on the one side, but then scantily clad men on the other. You can see, and Jess is a important gay artist from earlier in the 20th century or mid 20th century. But Jess actually got his start. He was part of the Manhattan Project and was serving on that and decided I don't really want to be part of this effort to create bombs that can annihilate mankind, and he leaves that and becomes an artist. Any thoughts on this, Rob, before we move on?
Well, I love his work. SF MoMA has another piece of his in the collection, which they've often had on display, which with the entire field is covered with collage. It's really quite amazing. You could look at it for many, many minutes, and but I think it's interesting because, yep, to think about, when this was done. I don't know what the date on this is exactly, but
It's
pre
1954.
no, I don't know. Is that his dates? 8 feet? No, I don't know what the 1851 is. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe the pieces that he used in the collage. I guess that's why.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so 54. Anyway, at this time, expressions of gay culture were not commonplace. Not certainly not like they are today. And using these pictures or drawings, basically some were pictures, I guess, some were photographs, some were drawings of naked men. Certainly was not the commonplace in 1954.
Yeah, it's the period of the Lavender Scare when people were being drummed out of certain jobs for being gay. And I guess Jess is kind of thumbing his nose at that sentiment, saying this is how I feel, and if you don't like it, too bad.
Yeah, so I mean, he was an openly gay artist. Before that was popular, or before that was considered so commonplace.
Well, and it's courageous and
Absolutely,
important to
absolutely.
other people who are trying to come out, I think, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's a product of that wonderful culture at SFAI that
Yeah.
we're talking about.
So this is a sculpture from Joan Brown that she did as a student at the Art Institute, and she studied with Manuel Neri, who later became her husband. But this is like not something so common for the work of Joan Brown, although she did do public sculpture later in her life. So yeah, this kind of is all found objects, kind of cool looking, right?
Yeah, we always think of her as a painter, but she did this as well.
And this is something more recent, Paul Pfeiffer Poltergeist. And it's you can't really tell, but it's very small actually. It's a small miniature sculpture in a glass case that's at the exhibition. And we have a comment out there in chat. Pyramid reminds me of the food pyramid. Yes.
Yes.
We go back.
Good comment. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, well, this is Mildred Howard. She is a African American artist who often does these sculptures that use bottles. And Rob and I both really like the shadow that this one casts. It's pretty small, although there's a full-size house that she's made out of bottles at the DeRosa Institute Art Gallery in Napa. That's pretty cool. And then David Park. This is a painting from David Park, or maybe it's more of a sketch, right, with pen and ink.
Yeah, it seems to be a study, or well, more than a study, but yeah, it's not fully rendered. Yeah.
In 1960 is sadly the year David Park passed away. So this is something he did at the end of his life. But he was a musician and he loved doing depictions of musicians. Rob and I both found it notable that heads are cropped in this painting, but the instruments, we kind of see the instruments being portrayed more vividly than maybe the players. And the Art Institute was notable for its, it had these musical ensembles. Kota Izawa, this is a later work, a depiction of Ansel Adams. This is something he did. He would take photographs and then kind of create abstractions of them. And this is a light box that is based on a photograph of Ansel Adams, and kind of not how most of us would think of Ansel Adams, right? From the late 30s. So I guess he doesn't have his big beard yet. It's just kind of an interesting way of thinking of Ansel Adams, I would say. Any thoughts, Rob, on this?
No, I mean that you pretty much said it. It's not what you would never know it was him without the title. And of
If you
course,
go to the museum, there's also a Kota Izawa work on the third floor as part of that exhibition.
yeah, and this is a light box, as I recall, right? It's in
Yeah.
a light box. It's a backlit
And he
piece.
has another one that's like that up on the third floor. And then George Kuchar is part of the filmmaking, video and film arts community. So this is him on the far left, teaching filmmaking in 1978. And there's also a poster at the end of his life that celebrates his works. And these are all of his very avant-garde films that he made there at SF Art Institute.
Yeah, so that was a very important part of their program. There weren't too many places there were places teaching film, but he did teach, avant-garde, as you said, and his films were unusual, very unusual for the time.
And then we saw some things earlier about some of these punk bands that came from the Art Institute. So there's more posters. This group, the Mutants, was one of the more notable groups to come out of the Art Institute, but there were many, many others, and then other musicians, like I mentioned, Dave Getz, who later was the drummer with Big Brother and the Holding Company, and actually still is to this day. And he studied at the Art Institute, is also a painter. So he's
And this is a great example, and there are many in the exhibition, but this is a wonderful example of the influence of the school of SFAI as it reverberated beyond the school into the general community, and how the students' involvement in various creative scenes, such as the punk bands, had a lot of influence. So, and that's really an underlying theme of the exhibition, was how the Art Institute, how the history of it, parallels so much the movements that were going on outside the school at the time. Well, here is this little sad group is the last graduating class at SFAI in 2022. You can see it's dwindled down to really just a few students. The kind of sad state of affairs. Slide. But fortunately, the Chestnut Street building and the Diego Rivera mural will live on, because in February 2024, a nonprofit organization was formed by a group of prominent local artists, art leaders, I should say, and backed by Laureen Powell Jobs. And they purchased the building for approximately $30 million, with the goal of reopening it as a non-accredited arts institution. So that's exciting news, and I, for one, eagerly await the details of all of that.
Yeah, one of the most important things is getting access to this Diego Rivera mural.
Right, yeah.
Such a
And
great one where he's depicting himself as a muralist.
yeah,
This is his
change slides.
rear end.
Yeah, we have a full frame of it there. There we go. Yeah, you see it better. Yeah, yeah. There he is on the scaffolding, right in the middle, painting. Yeah, and I don't know how many of you have seen this, but
I actually never have, Rob, so
yeah,
I'm kind of eager to get that access.
yeah, it's in a sort of common area wall, common hall, great hall, I guess they call it, which is right off the courtyard. And fortunately, I was able to see it recently before they closed. But
Nikki's asking, is there any public access yet? I don't think there is,
no, I don't
but
think so.
hey, what we'll keep up on that, and on this program, we'll let people know when that is a possibility.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I think that's it for our program
yeah.
on the Art Institute, but we'd love to hear either questions or thoughts on this. If anybody out there wants to unmute and say a few things.
Nice presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Doris.
Did anybody in the audience ever take classes there? They had a extension program. Anybody ever take classes?
Yes, I took classes. I took a couple. One on life drawing, and I can't remember what the other one was, but life drawing was the most recent.
Yeah, yeah.
I loved the actual building too. That's kind of a romantic feeling to it, like you're in Italy or somewhere.
Yeah, the courtyard. Yeah, you get a sense of it, I think, from some of the pictures that we showed. But yeah, it's a beautiful building.
And it
So,
has beautiful views of the bay too, right?
yeah, oh yeah, the
Yeah,
views are
yeah.
spectacular. And of course, that was, some talk that, well, it could be condos or whatever, but it's better that it was saved as as an arts institution, because that's what it traditionally was meant to be. And
So
yeah,
three cheers for Lorene Jobs. Nice seeing some of the tech money going for some good.
that's right. Yeah, that's right.
And I see we have a chat. Have other art schools suffered a similar fate? I think a lot of these smaller educational institutions, like Mills College is not an art school, but that's a terrible loss for them to close.
Yeah.
Rob, do you know of other art institutions and how they're doing?
Well, not offhand, but the SFAI, of course, opened a big center at Fort Mason. They took over a pier there, and it was studio space for their MFA students, and that was just a couple of years before they closed. So I think it was a very bad move financially to do that, unfortunately. But and I
Well,
visited,
of course, we've been living in really challenging times
yeah.
with the COVID and all that. Ron asks, do you remember the Brooks Institute in Santa Barbara, Rob?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I don't believe it's still in existence. I haven't heard anything about it in a long time. But yeah, it was a private school of photography, and there were many schools of photography, but mostly teaching photography as a craft, as a commercial craft. And of course, some of those photographers then took that knowledge and became fine art photographers. But the uniqueness of the SFAI program was that it started out with the intention of teaching fine art photography as the theme to what they were teaching the students.
Yep. So thank you, Rob, for doing this with me, this Art Institute celebration. And we highly recommend people get to SFMOMA. It's on the second floor. Definitely worth a visit, checking
Yeah,
out this
it'll
exhibition.
be there a while. I think the middle of next year, I believe.
It
So
will
it's on for a
continue.
while. Yeah.
Meanwhile, we have a bunch of art viewing adventure programs coming up in December, January, and February. And among things we'll be talking about are some of the artists in the San Francisco area that I met during Open Studios. And my very next program will be a woman named Jane Grimm, who does photography. And I really liked looking at her work. She does I think sculpture too. She does actually more sculpture. I'm sorry. There's photographs of her sculpture, but I got to visit her studio in Haight-Ashbury. So she'll be up next second Monday of December, and then we've got a bunch of other things. We've got the Manet and Morisot exhibition at the Legion of Honor that we'll be talking about. So lots of good stuff.
And tonight is tribute to Johnny Cash.
With Richie Underberger.
And Richie, and the Boomer music going to be tribute to Johnny Cash. So that should be really special tonight.
I will
Yeah.
definitely be there for that. I'm a huge Johnny Cash fan.
Yeah.
These are just examples of what CLC does. And CLC, along with about 1 million other nonprofits, is going to be part of Giving Tuesday on the 2nd, which has become a tradition now. And they'll be calling out to people who want to help continue our programming. And I would like to make a personal call out for the programming I'm involved with at CLC, which is the Latino Heritage Programming. And we're a small staff. In fact, we're down from 2 to 1 individual. That's me. But we before my colleague left, we did some tremendous programming. We did 2 years of the Cesar Chavez holiday, and we brought some great speakers to Glen Park, and it was a packed house. It was really, really fun. And we've brought, speaking of photographers, we've brought David Bacon to speak, and he talked about his book about migration and what it's like on both sides of the borders. And he's from the East Bay. He's from Berkeley, Rodney. I don't know if you know him or not, but he is very, very knowledgeable and interesting. He's a well-known photojournalist that photographs on both sides of the borders. We brought an author who wrote a book about the history of the food trucks, which we can thank the farm workers for. It wasn't so popular back in the day when they started it, but look at it now, it's such a trend. And we bring all kinds of really great Latino programming to our CLC viewers. So if you're going to donate and if you want a specific program, look for the Latino programming in Midtown Terrace. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks for telling us about that, Nikki. And always great putting on this program with you. Thanks again, Rob, for joining us and working on this with me. I wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. I want to thank all of you for just being in the audience. And, you know, we can't really put on great programs if we don't have people there to watch. And also, I really want to especially thank Jennifer, our technical moderator. So been great working this year with Jennifer and you too, Nikki. So
Thanks
thanks
you.
to everybody. We'll be back in 2 weeks with more art viewing adventures.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Robert.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.